What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. It's Thursday, so you know what that means. It's time for Hey Rockstar, your favorite show. It's a show where we bring to you value to inspire you to grow physically, spiritually, mentally, socially, and financially. Guys, I'm excited for this show today. A lot of you guys know that I took off to Texas, but I just came back. I had to come back quick because today we had a good show for you live from Nashville, Tennessee. It is episode 39, and it is an interview with a rock star. So, if it's your first time here, do the thing. You know, the like, the love, all that fun stuff. We will appreciate that. Share it. If you are commenting, just know that if your comments are relevant to our discussion, we will highlight it right away. But if not, we'll try to catch everything towards the end of the show. Are you ready? Are you ready? Because I know I am. I am so ready for this. Today's guest, ladies and gentlemen, is someone who has really inspired me a lot in the 5 years that I've gotten to know him. Almost 6 now. He's one of the first faces that I met when I first walked into Rocketown, and I remember telling him that his writings have really inspired me. I really love his style. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today I have to you a rock star, a literal rock star, and not just in character but also musicianship. This man has written so many good songs. He has such a great story to share with us today. And it's all about being faithful and moving forward in what's going on. But today I introduce to you a worship pastor of a church known as the Belonging Co. here in Nashville, Tennessee. Great. If you guys check out online, you'll see some amazing footage of what God is doing here in Tennessee. But also he is a father. He is a husband. He has been a leader. He has been a mentor. He is someone who you just like to sit down and talk to him. He always has time to just share love and pastor. Ladies and gentlemen, get your hands together for Andrew Holt.
You're the
Welcome to the
man.
show, my man.
Hey, dude. I was
Welcome,
not
Andrew.
expecting that. That was amazing, dude.
Well, you
I
know
love
what?
it.
I'm just as pumped as Kraler made here, man. He is
Come
pumped
on.
for this one. This is gonna be a good show. I actually
Yes.
had him on this show. He's a YouTuber who does media work at Bico, but
Awesome.
yeah, this. Well, you know what? We can talk about his story later on. Kraler, you know that I love you, man. And we're gonna go on to this show. This is gonna be a good program. So, Andrew, I can go all day about me. Today, I would like to know a little bit about yourself. So, if you don't mind, just share a little bit about your story and how you are where you are today.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, brother. Happy to be here with you today. My name is Andrew. I am from Nashville, Tennessee. Grew up here. Unlike a lot of people, as you know, a lot of people move here from other places, but I actually grew up here just in
Guilty.
a town called Thompson Station, just south of the city. Um, and honestly, bro, I grew up just loving the church, loving the Lord, and loving worship, and knew from a pretty early age that I was meant to do worship in some capacity through music, and um, like played sports pretty quick, like when I was a kid, and quickly realized that I was too short to really do anything in sports, especially basketball, which I really love basketball, but I was too short to do that. Um, but honestly, when I started getting involved in church, I started leading worship when I was 13 in like youth group, and
Hmm.
laid down everything else in my life at the time and just like gave everything I had to the church. And I actually came on staff at my church when I was 15 years old, which is crazy. They were paying me like $200 a month to come and lead worship for the youth group, which is amazing. But for me at the time, it was the dream, and would literally go to school and come home and go straight to church and just serve. And that's what I love to do. And so I did that all through high school, all through college. And I don't know, like anyone out there listening, but for me, what happened unintentionally was I really got caught in just the routine of going to church, got caught in the routine of doing that. And without knowing it, it really built my identity in just being a worship leader, in being someone who was at church all the time. And it sounded like a good thing. It sounded like a holy thing, which it is obviously, but it had taken me away from my first love of just being a son of God. And um, that all shifted for me in 2014 when I stepped foot in this little tiny venue in South Nashville with 200 other people at this place called the Belonging Co. that I had heard about from friends on Instagram, but I've never actually been. And I walked in, and the only way I know how to describe it is that someone like took a bucket of water and just dumped it on like a dry sponge, and I just soaked it up. And I started coming every Tuesday night. And I remember telling my wife, now we were actually just dating at the time, like this would be a dream to be a part of something like this, that God's moving in this way. And God was honestly just changing our lives. And I was just getting impacted every time I was in the room, every time I was at church on Tuesday nights. And really what was happening in my heart and my life was just rediscovering who I was actually meant to be. Actually meant to be a son of God first and foremost. All the other things that I do in life, success, career, whatever that is, comes after that. Even if it is ministry, even if it is doing things for God, I'd really like learned or tried. I had become so fixated on what I was doing for God instead of my relationship with Him. And so all of a sudden, I was in this environment where no one needed me to lead worship. They had it covered, and I was just coming and receiving. And so that happened for like 6 months probably, and I met our senior pastor Henry Seeley during that time, just like in passing after church one night, and kind of told him who I was and what I was doing. And he says, like today, that as soon as we met each other, pretty quickly, he felt like I was supposed to be a part of what God was doing in our church. And I didn't know that at the time, but we kind of built a relationship. The season at my old church actually ended up ending, and I just felt God say, you're supposed to be at the Belonging Co., which was honestly a step of faith for me because I was about to get married. My wife and I had just gotten engaged. We were both in college, and we needed jobs, you know. And, but there was no job at the Belonging Co. That's not why at all why I felt God saying that. I thought that was never even a possibility. I just heard Him say, "Come, be a part of this church, be a part of this house." And so I got a job at a little coffee shop here in town called the Perch, which is like a crepe coffee shop kind of situation. And I was working 40 hours a week, bro, at this little coffee shop. And not only was I like a barista, but I was also the cashier. I was the dishwasher. I was running food to tables. I was doing it all, bro. 40 hours a week, almost full-time hours, waking up at 5 a.m., driving, and so many mornings going like, God, there's got to be more than this. You know, there's got to be more for me because I know you've put all these things in my heart, all these dreams in my heart. But I knew that He had called me for this season, at least at that time, just to be planted in this church that was honestly changing my life, changing my relationship with my fiance, relationship with my wife after we got married, and making me who I am today. And I just heard God say in that season, if you can be faithful with what I put in your hands, if you can steward what I put in your hands, even if it feels small in this season, even if it feels insignificant, because at the time working at a coffee shop felt really insignificant. It felt really not what I was meant to do. It was not the dream of my life to be a barista. It was not the dream of my life for sure to be washing dishes. And, but I just felt, God, if you can be if you can be faithful with that, I can trust you with more. And so I just kind of leaned into it, man. I leaned into that job at a coffee shop. I learned how to make latte art when no one else is making latte art at that shop. And I was doing that well. I learned how to love my employees well. I learned how to clean up the place better than anyone else cleaned up the place. And I also leaned into this place on Tuesday nights called the Belonging Co. as just serving and showing up when they called me and they needed me. Even so many Tuesday mornings that Henry called me saying, "Hey, I really need someone to play guitar tonight. Can you come play?" And I would just show up and say yes. And long story short, at that time, our pastor, Henry Seeley, was leading the worship team, rostering it every week, and also being the senior pastor of the church, preaching oftentimes. and he just needed help. And so at one point I just said to him, like, look, bro, I can do planning center. Like I've done it my whole life, literally almost my whole life. So if you need help, I'm here for you. And so he asked me to start just coming around his house and helping him with planning center. And we just started to build a relationship. And he asked me to come on staff in 2016, the beginning of 2016, to help lead the worship team. And been doing that ever since, bro. And it honestly has been the honor of my life to be a part of it. And I've grown and got to be a part of amazing things that God's doing in our city and around the world. And but honestly, it all the things that I'm putting into practice now as a worship pastor of our church, I learned in that season of being a barista at the Perch and saying yes to the call of God and saying yes to what God was saying, even though it didn't make sense. And I learned how to trust him. I learned how to find my identity in him, not what I do for him. And that's a real long story, really short, but that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am now.
No, you gave me so much to pick at and go from. But all right now I was thinking, it'd be cool. Now I'm thinking of a book title, how to become a worship pastor, the barista, the coffee barista way kind of
Yeah,
situation.
come on.
Because there's
There
a
you
lot
go.
of people. For example, right now someone just commented here, coffee shop life. I'm not sure if you
There you go.
remember Emilio Bustamante. He came to
Yeah.
one of our conferences. I think it's the first year we went. We did conference in the municipal,
Yeah.
and he asked to take a picture with you. And of course, I'm used to you. Of course, when I first started going was 2016. Now,
Yeah.
let me ask you just on a personal note: was it before or after the birthday party that they brought you onto staff?
It was right after.
Okay. Because I walked
Yeah.
in, the very first day I walked in was the day of the second birthday party there at Belonging.
Yeah.
And I remember they had donuts and cookies. And I'm
Yep.
like, well, this is a way to welcome people in. Why not
Totally,
come
bro.
back to this? But Emilio's also involved in his church as a worship leader, and he's working
Amazing.
at a coffee shop, Moonshine,
Come
back
on.
in Austin. But anyway,
Come on, man.
man, we have a lot of people already making comments, and we'll get to you guys. I would definitely will get to you guys. But I guess let's go back to how long have you been writing songs? Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
I mean, in a way, I've been writing a long time since
Okay.
I was little, but I don't think I ever thought it was something that I was like really gifted at, something that I saw myself doing more. It was more of just like, I mean, I may have written two or three songs, up until about 2014. And then end of 2014, 2015, I actually started co-writing a little bit with just friends in town that I met, and I released just like a small EP. It was like five songs, four or five of them were original songs, and those are really the first songs that I had co-written with other people, like collaborating. And it kind of opened up this thing in me of like, okay, I actually really love this, and I kind of started to see fruit from it. But when I actually came on staff at church at the Belonging Co., one of the first things that was like my responsibility to organize was our first writing retreat for
Wow.
church. And so we essentially kind of got some of our core team of worship leaders and producers and songwriters, and we went away and wrote for our church. The whole goal of it was simply we're going to write for our house, for our church, not for a record, not for any other reason, but just because we feel like we would not be stewarding the people God has given us if we didn't write for our house. And
Mm.
we felt like God was moving in such a unique way in our city and our church that we needed to put language to it. We needed to be able to sing new songs that gave language to what God was doing. And I remember sitting in that room the first day of the retreat, looking around, literally sitting in a room of people that wrote songs that I grew up singing, like that. That's been one of the wildest part of this journey for me, is that I've been asked to like be a part of leading a team of people who have massive platforms, who have, been doing this way longer than I've been doing it. And so it's honestly been a season of learning a lot and just trusting God, because he's like, he said to me, if you can trust me, I'll give you the keys to do it. I'll give you the anointing to do it. I'll give you authority, but you have to partner with me. And so that was that season for me of learning that like hardcore. But that retreat was the first time really that I co-written with like high caliber writers, and it kind of put me on this journey of growing really, really fast as a
Mm.
writer, and but also like really learning, especially in worship music, the art of listening to the voice of God as you write and asking him to like guide you and give you language and words and lyrics and melodies. And I was able to be a part of some amazing songs, even just on that retreat. The first song that I ever wrote for the Belonging was a song called Fall. And
Yes, I was gonna bring that
it,
up. When
yeah,
did
bro, that was
what?
one of the first songs I wrote for church. And it was honestly so significant because I felt like it was just a prophetic statement that, I was feeling all this insecurity and maybe even fear. And it was just this statement of something's changing in the spirit, something's breaking. I can
Mm.
feel it. Heaven come down. And I look back on that and going like, there's no coincidence of why that was the first song that I wrote, because that was a season for me of really learning how to invite the Holy Spirit into my life, how to invite him to come and break down anything that was getting in the way for me, for fully walking with him and in the things that he had called me to. And yeah, man, I got to be a part of writing some beautiful songs in that season for our church, and then we ended up releasing that and that as our first album, and um, have been doing that, writing for church ever since. It's really all I do. It's mostly what I write for, and it's my favorite thing in the world, bro, is be able to sit in a room with people, write a song, and get to see that not only impact us and our church and our house and our city, but churches and cities literally around the world, singing these songs that were birthed out of our church. And I don't think there's anything like that, even in the music industry, like where you have this thing of it's not only just us as writers or us as worship leaders who are part of these songs, it's literally all of us at our
Yeah.
church, just like you are a part of our team, you serve every week. And like all of us together make what our church is. That is the beauty of community. That is the beauty of church. And so it really feels like these are our songs, these are our anthems of what God's doing in our lives. And so, yeah, one of my favorite parts of my job for sure.
You touched on something that a friend of mine wanted me to ask you this when I mentioned that I was going to interview you. He also does worship back in Odessa, Texas. But I guess I had the, what's the word? The blessing of being ignorant of who people were, simply because
Mhm.
before coming to Nashville, I was doing ministry over across streets, overseas in Latin American countries. So I was familiar with the Spanish worshipers and the names. So I didn't know who was well known here, and I'd been traveling for about 5 6 years. And when I came back, I didn't know who anyone was really. So entering the Belonging, I saw faces, I saw talented people, but I didn't know who anyone was, which I think was a
Yeah,
blessing for me. Um,
totally.
other than a few people that I just you kind of know them because they've been around for a while. I didn't even know who Pastor Henry was until our mutual friend Jimmy. He's the one who actually got me to the Belonging, and I interviewed him a while back. He's like, dude, this was so and so, and he was with this ministry. Like, all right, I'll go check it out with you. But the question that my friend wanted to ask is, have you ever, or if you have, how have you moved forward? Ever felt maybe not intimidated, but kind of like maybe like humbled at the fact that like, wow, who am I to get to lead certain people? And if you have, how have you handled this with wisdom?
Yeah. I mean, 100%, man. I think even less about who they are or like their platforms. It was more of just like this idea of I'm this young kid coming in.
Mm.
Besides my one other person, I was the youngest person on the team when I came on staff to lead the team, and literally was leading people, not to like try to be overly humble. Like I did not have the resume, I did not have the experience um, to do that in the natural, But God had made a way for me to be there, and I remember in the first like few weeks of doing it, just having a lot of conversations with God about, God, like obviously you've put me here, but I do feel this intimidation sometimes. I feel this a little bit of insecurity, and mostly just this fear of what if I can't do it, or what if this was a mistake, it's something been putting me in this position. What if someone figures out that I'm a fraud? That feeling. And I remember God teaching me pretty quickly, because I had to learn this lesson, and him showing me like, if just look at how this came about. Like this is him talking to me, you know.
Yeah.
There's no way you could have done this in your own strength. There's no way your
Mm.
resume would have opened this door. There's no way that your experience could have opened this door. It's only by me. Like it's only by him that I got this opportunity. And I just felt him say to me, like, I will give you the keys, I will give you the anointing, I will give you the authority, I'll give you everything you need. Because I'm not gonna open a door for you and then just be like, all right, Andrew, good luck, have fun, you know. I got you this far. No, that's not how God is. He walks with us every day. He wants to partner with us. And so I kind of took that to heart, and just not in the arrogant way, but a confidence way of going, no, I know who my God is. I
Mm.
know the door he's opened for me. I know that he's placed me here. And so that I'm going to trust him, that he's going to make a way for me. He's going to give me everything I need to not just get by, but to kill it and to do it really, really well. And so I think that gave me a confidence really early on in that season of just going, okay, God, like every time I came up against something that was unknown or I'd never done before, I was just telling the story to someone yesterday. Actually, I remember the first like worship team night that I led, like on my own. Like no, Henry wasn't there anymore. I had it at my house and had the whole team come to my house, and we were just hanging out at the beginning, like eating some food. And I was about to like gather everyone and like lead worship and bring a word that I felt like God had given me. And I remember going upstairs like to our like master bedroom and going to the bathroom and just like sitting there, like having a bit of a moment of like, all right, God, like I don't know what I'm doing. So nervous, so freaked out in the flesh, and just saying, God, like, but I know this is what you've spoken to me. I know who you said I am. I know that this is who you've made me to be. And so God, just come and speak through me, come and show me how to lead this team well. And I remember that night doing it, being really nervous, but it going so well, and God showing up in such a supernatural way. And it felt like a pivotal moment for me of just learning how to do that, because it wasn't like I did that once and the next time it was all easy and daisies and chill. No, I was still feeling all those same things, but I was learning how to overcome that quicker and easier, and how to walk with God and hear his voice. And that honestly is how I've overcome that feeling, you know, of intimidation or whatever it is just saying, God, like, I know you've placed me here. I know you put me here. And so I'm going to, the worst thing I could do is let that stuff get in the way of what God has for me to do. The best thing that I
Yeah.
can do is to trust him, that he's with me. And um, he's not let me down yet. So I don't think he's going to anytime soon. It's that idea for me. I've said this to a lot of people, like, if you let God build your life, if you let God build the things that that you're doing in your life, then you don't have to sustain those things. You don't have to maintain those things. But if
Mm.
you build it, if you work hard enough, if you strive enough, if you meet the right people, if you network enough, all those things, you have built your life, which is great, but you have to maintain that. You have to sustain it.
Yeah.
And I really am thankful that I've lived not always perfectly in this, but I've lived in a way that I've let God build my life. I've let God open the doors that I've walked through, because he is the one that sustains that. He is the one that keeps it. I don't have to worry about it. If for whatever reason this is not what God has for me next in part of my life, then that means he's opening something better for me. And my life is better suited for me because God knows me better than I know myself even. He knows who I am. He knows what I was created. He created me.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to just let him do it, man. I've learned to like take steps of faith because I know he's going to catch me. And and it's been like a journey, but it's been an amazing journey, bro.
Dude, no, I get it. But people, all right. How did you get to this place? Or have you always been privileged, or maybe you have, but like, how did you find your way to this place where you're like, you know what? I've tried it my way. I know I could probably force it, but I think it's better if I just let God take over. Did that ever come easy to you? Or was there like maybe steps or maybe a time in your life where it wasn't so easy and you had to learn how to have this dependency?
Yeah, I think I definitely have had moments where I've tried to do it on my own and seen the fruit of that, and it's not been great fruit all the time.
Mm.
And so I've just to I've learned that it's always worth it to trust God. That doesn't mean it's always easy, and it
Mm.
doesn't mean it always makes sense to the people around you. I remember in that season of my life when I was working at that coffee shop, that was a massive step of faith for me. And there was a lot of people around me in that time that were going, well, what, Andrew, why don't you do this? Like, why are you doing that over there? Or Andrew, why don't you take this job at this church? Like they're hiring down the street, you know. I had so many opportunities like that. And I always felt God say no. I always felt God say, no, there's something else for you, but I need you to trust me. I need you to stay and remain. And that was a season that wasn't necessarily short. And because he knew I needed to learn some things, and he knew I needed to grow in some ways. And so, but I'd seen maybe smaller ways earlier in my life, the fruit that comes when you trust God, even in unknown and even in uncertainty. And I honestly, bro, I still live that way today. Like we're like kind of in the middle of a testimony right now in our own lives for our family, where it's like, we're about to have another little girl. Number 2's on the way in November. And we have a 2.5-year-old, and my wife is a nurse, and nurses make great money. You know, they do really well for themselves. And when we had Olive, our first daughter, my wife went part-time, which was a step of faith, but God showed up in supernatural ways financially for us in that season. And then we knew when we had another kid that we wanted her to step down, if not completely, like go like PRN is what they call it, where it's maybe one day a week. You kind of tell them when you want to work, just to kind of keep your license as a nurse. Yeah. She knew, and I knew that we wanted her to be like a mom, that to stay home with our kids and raise them, at least for this early season of their lives. But that was going to be a massive step of faith for us. And it was going to be this moment of saying, all right, God, like if we do this, we know that you're going to provide. We know that you're going to show up. And she told her work she was going to do it after she got pregnant, without really knowing how we were going to like make it happen, pay all the bills. No joke, bro. Like less than a month later, I had written this song like randomly in 2019 for TV film. And I'd never really done that before. It was the first song I'd ever written for that. And nothing ever happened with it. We wrote the song. It got like some attention from like people in town that wanted to pitch it, but nothing ever happened. No TV shows picked it up. 2 years later, bro, right after we had taken this step as a family to a faith, my wife had told her work, I'm not going to work full time or part time even anymore once this baby's born. This song got picked up for the American Idol like season finale promo.
I think I remember someone posting about that.
Yeah. So, and it was just this crazy thing of going, I didn't know that was going to happen before we made this decision and before she told her employment that she wasn't going to be working anymore. But it was this thing of, I know that God's going to provide, and he did. He showed up. And it was just this thing of him saying, I've got you. And we were actually on this like little trip with my family in Gatlinburg at the time, which is important to the story. And 2 months later, last week, actually, 2 weeks ago, we were away with my family again at the beach on vacation with my parents and my brothers. And the same song got picked up for another placement. And I felt God say to me 2 weeks ago when that happened, he said, Andrew, like if you'll rest, I was on vacation, don't strive, don't worry. Obviously I have to do the things in the natural to get that. I have to write the song, but if you will just trust me, I will provide for your family. If you'll rest in me, I will provide. And I think it's just been moments like that throughout my life where I've seen him do it again and again and again. And it's not like it's always easy to do that, but it is always worth it. And I always know that on the other side of it, I may not know how he's going to show up. I may not know how he's going to provide, but I know that he will provide as long as I'm hearing his voice and as long as I'm walking with him. And that's the mystery and the goodness of God, bro. There's no way of explaining it, but I think that is how I've gotten to that place, to answer your question, is just seeing him do it, taking steps, taking risks, taking steps of faith, and seeing him show up and provide, and doing my best to steward that well and partner with him. And so.
All right. So let's get to a little bit of the technical thing, because people get to see what happens they get to see what happens in front of the cameras. What we display. And like I've shared with you before, whenever I go into direct, my whole prayer and my whole viewpoint is I want to capture best what Holy Spirit's doing so that the people at home can experience it as though they're with us. And I'm always like, Holy Spirit, let's just capture what you're doing because I want people to experience God as close as possible. So that's why I encourage our camera people to get into the people. Like, we've all had that situation where we're sitting behind a tall headed guy and we're like trying to see over him as pastors trying to preach or something like that. Just those kind of things. But I would like to know, behind the scenes, as a pastor about to worship, what kind of steps are taken to just kind of get the worship team, or just get the everyone ready for just to serve God and to worship?
Totally, man. I think it's definitely twofold. It's personal and team based. For me, like I try to always, before I even get to the building, like on a Sunday morning or a Tuesday night, to really like ask God, what do you want to do tonight? What do you want to do this morning in the service? And sometimes it's a super elaborate thing that he reveals, or sometimes it's so simple. Like last Tuesday night I was leading and I just felt God say that he's going to fill up empty cups and with living water. And that was it. But we always, as a team, on team level, we always gather before we go up to lead and we pray together. I kind of like share something, or someone else is leading, share something. And we just kind of like get unified together. I think that's a big part of what we do, and why we have what we have is because we are unified as a team. And there's this moment we always have together where we kind of get together and we say, all right, guys, this is why we're here. Let's remind ourselves of what we're doing here. It's not just to play some songs. It's not just to not mess up on stage. It's actually to, both for ourselves and the people in the room, have an encounter with God. It's to provide a place to give people something to sing, that they can give glory and honor to him, to lift his name up, because we know when that happens that something will change in the room. And I always try to bring us to that place. And it looks different. It sounds different sometimes, but Tuesday night, I felt like that thing in my spirit of he's going to fill up empty cups overflowing. And I think it's Psalm 23 where, it says, my cup runneth over with him when I'm with him. And in worship, like we kind of just had this moment of spontaneous flow. And I started singing this thing of my cup's running over to overflow. And that was just, it wasn't like we had rehearsed that, planned that. It was actually just the overflow of what God was saying and what God was speaking. But I knew that something needed to shift in the room in that way, and that people needed to get this revelation of in his presence, my cup is overflowing. And so I think it's just simply like leaning into him and listening. And it's not always this, I think so often, especially in church life, we over spiritualize things.
Yeah.
And we make things harder than it needs to be. And I feel like for me, so often hearing the voice of God is just literally just this little like impression in my spirit of cups overflowing, okay, what's that mean? And it's simple as literally Googling. I know there's a scripture about cups overflowing. I Google it and I find the scripture. I read that to the team. It's as simple as that. And I think there's power in that when we get on the same page together. There's power in all knowing this is what we're after tonight as we sing, as we lead. And I think for us, that's a massive key to what we do. And the team aspect of it, knowing that we're in this together. It's not just me or whoever's leading on stage, but it's actually all of us together that have this one common goal. And I think another key thing for me is, I remember maybe like 3 years into being on staff, I kind of hit this point of like, not burnout, but I was realizing that I was kind of falling into routine of just doing what I do every week. And I knew that I did not want to get into that. I did not want to fall into that place. And I just asked God, just reveal to me, how can I keep this fire going? Because I don't want it to go out. I know that you've put me here for a long time. And he like just kind of brought me back to the first time, what I shared about earlier, that I walked into the Belonging Co. And I just got this revelation of like every single time we gather, like every single time we get together, there's people walking in for the first time that are dry like I was, that are hungry for the presence of God like I was. And like, just like that night in 2014, when I walked in, there were people on the team serving that night that pushed through whatever they were going through, that pushed through whatever they were facing so that I could have an encounter with God. And that's what I get to do every single time we gather. That's what we get to do every time we get together, is is to provide a place for those people to encounter God for the first time. And that always gets me amped, bro. Like that revelation, a few years ago, it's something I come back to all the time because I'm like, if we're just gonna come and sing some songs and
Yeah.
go through the motions, like, and be a good band, then we could go down on Broadway and do that and do really well for ourselves. But I'm actually not interested in that. If that's all we're gonna do, then I'd rather be at home on the couch with my little girl and my wife playing, having fun together as a family. But if we're actually gonna go after God and like believe that He's gonna show up and give Him honor and give Him glory and have an encounter with Him, then I'm all in. Like I'm all in every single time because I know the life change that comes from it. And
Yeah.
I think those couple things is something that I always lean on as I'm leading the team, as I'm leading myself. I think that's part of it, is leading myself through those feelings and those things. But yeah,
No, I can totally relate. Um,
yeah.
I remember there was a season when we were short-handed on directors, and
Hmm.
they had me, and that's when we had like 4 services on Sunday.
Right.
And Ben at the time asked me if I would just come in. I'm like, let's go ahead. But like mentally, I was like, oh my goodness, that goes my whole Sunday. And then
Hmm.
Tuesday, they asked me to come back on Tuesday, and like the physical, the flesh tells me, why did you agree to this? This is so much
Right.
work. But then you show up, and I'm sure you've heard stories of the energy that I like to bring whenever I'm directing back there.
Yeah.
And afterwards, just I love to encourage my camera operators, and I love to pour into them. And afterwards, though, I'm done with the service, and I come home like I don't want to do anything else. It's just amazing how it's like just a blessing of the feeling you get, from pouring out into others. It's like
Hmm.
the supernatural feeling that I can't even explain either, but you just feel like even though you gave,
Right.
the Spirit made sure you got filled up to the
That's
top, to
right,
the
bro.
brim. That's part of the
Come
miracle
on.
that of this. One
So
thing,
good.
again, I love talking, so you can stop me, Andrew, anytime you need me to stop. But the one thing that caught my attention when I first came into to serve was, or just in the church in general, is, and I believe Pastor Henry put it this way in one message: what comes out of everyone. Because I've been in shows, and I've been in youth conferences and conventions and all this stuff where we do the lights, we do the smoke, we do everything to entertain, well, not to entertain, but to grab the attention of others. And what impressed me about our house is that that is not the case. What happens is the result of the heart's gratitude. The people who come, they come. It is what they said. It's a hospital first. A lot of
Yeah.
people, myself included, I came broken or just tired, exhausted, jaded out of whatever reason where we came from. And the best thing that Pastor Henry told me is just sit down and just rest. And I did. I did my
Yeah.
time, rested. And when I was ready to come back, I was ready to come back. And what came out of me was just out of gratitude from what God had done in me. I mean, I'm assuming we're not the only one. I'm sure there's other churches that do that, but
Hmm.
that's the one thing that I love it, because to me everything else, everything is an expression of worship. It's what we
Yeah.
know how to do, and we just do it to honor God, from the lights, from the music, and that's why it comes with such integrity, or just comes with such excellence, I believe.
Totally.
But anyway, that's just my observation,
That's
and
good,
one thing
man.
that gets me just like, it's fun. It's fun,
So
and also
good.
it's fun because you don't know what people do until they go up there and do it. Like last night, I was telling Drew, that's the first time I ever seen you play drums. I didn't even know you could play drums. I just know you as
Hmm.
part of the production team with us,
Right.
and he killed it. I loved it. I'm sure. I mean,
Amen.
there's a lot of people who are just gifted and just
Yeah.
just just doing what they want. Anyway, anyway, I'm excited. As you can tell, I love this fact um, about pouring into others. But I want to be respectful of your time. So let's go ahead and just start asking some questions like towards the end, and we have more time to chat. We'll get a few of these comments. But one of
Totally.
the questions that I definitely wanted to ask you, and would love for you to share with my audience, is in your life, what disciplines or habits have become canon in your everyday practice?
Yeah, man. I think Number one is in some way engaging with God every day. And I don't, for me, it's not always the same. Like, it's not like I sit down at the same desk with the same Bible and the same cup of coffee at the same time every day and do that. I wish it
Mm.
was like that, but my life just does not work that way, especially now that I have a little 2 year old. Um, but I think engaging with God in some way is always important, whether that's through His Word, through prayer, or through worship. I always make it a point to do that, and and I think that is important for me. Another thing that I do, I feel like so often, is kind of just evaluate myself. People talk about, like going to counseling, which I think is awesome, and I think there's a place for that in life for sure. But I think there is a part of our lives that you have to lead yourself. You have to kind of call yourself out on some things. And I feel like I'm doing that so often where I'm like sensing things in my life that aren't always what they need to be. If I'm sensing some anxiety in my life or if I'm sensing some weariness in my life, usually those are just signs that something's off. Those are like warning
Mm.
signs. And I've learned like that if I can evaluate those things, if I can highlight those things in my life before they get out of control, I can actually lead myself through those things. And really, it's just by, asking God, like, I'm feeling this anxiety in my life. Is there something off? And usually he's like, yeah, there is something off in our relationship, or there's something off in how I'm walking with him, whatever that is. So I think that's important. Very like something that I love doing that I've been doing for a couple of years is playing basketball. With just some good friends of mine. There's not like I'm not doing that every day, but I try to at least once or twice a week. And there's this thing of just like physically doing something that's not creative, it's not ministry, it's it's just hanging out with some dudes playing basketball. And I think for me, it helps my mind switch off for a second from that. And I always feel refreshed and I always feel ready to go for the day after I play. We play like super early in the morning, like 6:30, 7 a.m.
Wow.
And it always just gets my day started right. So that's one of my favorite things to do. Um, and I think now this will be my last one to answer this question, but now a weekly discipline for me is balancing my family with
Mm.
what I do. And I think this year, especially the past 2 years in 2020, like all of a sudden we were all sitting at home, and
Yeah.
I think God really showed me the beauty of being with my family, the beauty of being together. And I've realized that in life is my number one priority is stewarding my family really well and being with them. And so I've make it a practice to make sure that there's space in that for that every single week. And Saturdays are kind of usually that for us of like, those are kind of sacred days where we're all together, whatever we're doing it together. And I try to just keep those days reserved for them, and a lot of Fridays the same way. So those are a few things that are important, and I can feel it in my life when those are not in the right balance. I can feel when those aren't right, and so I've learned to make sure they're right.
No, that is that in this neck of the woods we call that Rockstar gold that you just
Come
dropped
on, bro.
because it's
You gotta
it's
do that,
it's
but you gotta hit the button when you say
oh
that.
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is some Rockstar gold. What Andrew
There you
just
go, dude.
dropped. I mean, they know it's important. And one thing that I do like to teach others is knowing your identity. Don't identify with, especially don't identify with your failures. Yes, I definitely agree. Identify with Christ is one of the best ways to have like the measurement that what's the word that moral compass. It just kind of leads you to the right place. But I have that same practice when you just feel you're off, and I'm thankful that I have the ability, instead of just letting the emotion run me, I can step back, step out of my emotions or out of my fields and go, all right,
Totally,
this is not right. This is not me. This is not normal for me. And
yeah,
I'm always like, all right, so what's going on here? Give me some light.
totally,
And I always tell my mom, like, I'm always telling God, you 100% you have permission to call me out if I am going the wrong way.
yeah,
Like the psalmist says, search me, know me, let me know what inside me
totally.
doesn't please you. And so I love that you also have that practice, and of course family and physical education, or just not physical education, just physical uh, stuff done in exercise.
Yeah,
Most people don't know how important that is, because we
it's a
are
game
we are
changer.
we are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. We
Yeah,
need to have like a unity on that. And I want
totally.
a lot of guys and girls too, when they come for advice, they always ask, what's the fastest way to gain confidence? And like, the fastest way to gain confidence is just start doing some push-ups, start getting
Yeah,
strong. And once your physical is right, then your mental kind of clarity gets back, and you can get back on the road. But no, that's some good stuff right there, Andrew. Before we go into the next question, let's go ahead and get some of these comments out. And I got to read them out because whenever I do the podcast, people won't be able to see them. We already got Crayler made when he goes, "Let's go." I got that at the very beginning. Oh, Heather. Heather used to be one of our faithful Tuesday
hey
goers,
Heather.
all the way from Franklin,
Heather's
Tennessee.
always messaging me on Instagram,
Oh man,
especially when it's a
she's
picture of Olive. Olive's
what?
biggest fan. That's my
Oh, gotcha.
daughter, Olive. Yeah,
Aw,
she's Olive's biggest fan.
I've gotten to know this guy recently.
My man, Joel.
Joe. I asked him, is it Joel or is it Joel? He goes, whatever you want. And I'm gonna start calling you Hoet, and with a little
There
Spanish,
you
and he
go.
loved it. Yes, I do the Hosa has intros. Or Hosa's intros are always fire by Crayler Made. Oh, sorry. Joel said, "Hey, let's go, my pastor." He also said on Facebook. Oh, he went from Facebook to YouTube. You're my hero, bro.
Legend.
We got him. Oh yes, fall. If we got a little bit of time, I would like to know how that song was first inspired. Was it something that happened live first, or was it something you wrote at home? Because I love the fact that I was there for some of the services when some of the choruses were just birthed in worship.
Yeah, bro. That song, Mia Fields actually sang that bridge out in church, and we sang that bridge in church like for several months before we ever wrote the song. And it was kind of just this tag that we would put at the end of other songs. And but that bridge was a spontaneous moment in church that we ended up writing. But I remember when that was my first write, like I said, and I remember when she said I want to write this song with this like bridge idea that I've been singing in church. I got so pumped because I that was like one of my favorite things that we had at church, and one of my favorite things that we sang in church. And so yeah, man, that story is wild. You know who else's story is wild is Joel's story, if you're still on here.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna have to get him on my show here. He was talking
Dude,
about how he heard it in
I
his
don't want
car.
to, I don't want to, I don't want to give it away, but his story of how he got to Nashville and how and specifically is at our church. We were at coffee one day and he told me the whole thing. And I was floored, bro. Like one of the most
All right.
amazing stories, one of the most humble, amazing dudes. And I love it.
Crayler said, I listened to the Belongings first album for quite a while before making it my home church. I remember him sharing that story with me. And we are glad he's in, because he is a beast when it comes to media, video, and
Um,
anything YouTube related. He's the guy you need to ask. And then Joel again said, thanks for hosting Josafat. So good. Joel, I need to ask you something. Do you know how to play reggae? Because I have a background in rock and reggae. And if you can, I would love to talk to you, my man. But either than that, all right. The next question I have for you, Andrew, and it goes kind of with what you just shared. But as you know, this show, I like to bring in people, share their stories, where they can share their value that people can take and start applying to their lives. Because a lot of transformation comes with just the way I see it is the best way to get rid of bad habits is by starting new habits, new good habits towards a better version of yourself, towards a walk and call. So out of you gave so much gold, but what's one thing, one little practice that you would like to, that you could say, I could advise your listeners if they just try this tomorrow and just be faithful to the process, it could help them in their process of becoming a rock star of tomorrow.
Totally. I think I mean, I would encourage you, all the things I said before, that those have been massive things for me. But I think one thing that I've grown leaps and bounds because I did this, um, and because I chose to like lean into this is surrounding myself with people who
Mm.
who I want the fruit of their lives, and I want to see the things that God's doing in them in my life, and not being intimidated by them, and um, not even comparing myself to them. I think that so often in life we don't surround ourselves with those people because we without maybe admitting it, we want to be the best in the room. Sometimes we want to be the most
Yeah.
talented in the room. We like that feeling, but I've never grown because I've surrounded myself with people who are behind me in life, or like not as where I am, and not have the fruit that I want in their lives. Um, I've only grown because I've surrounded myself with people who are ahead of me in life, who have fruit in their life that I want. It's like when we got pregnant with Olive, our daughter, people came out of the woodworks, bro, to give us advice about how to be parents. Like
Mm.
everyone's trying to give us advice. And the crazy thing is everyone had great advice, but they were oftentimes differing. It was like, if you do this, then this will happen. But then the next person was like, if you do this, this will happen. Like those are opposite things. They both
Wow.
sound good. Who do we choose? And I remember like just saying to Sarah in that season, like, let's pick like three couples who have kids that are amazing kids, who have good fruit, who have good behavior, all those things. And let's take advice from those people, and let's lean into what they have to say and ask them questions. And that's kind of just how I've always done it. Like I've always learned from people around me. And um, yeah, man. So tomorrow, if you're listening, think about that person who is that in your life that you have a relationship with. And it's not like they have to take you to coffee every day and they
Yeah.
have to become your mentor, but actually just like be intentional about watching their life and watching how they do things and learning, and that taking those things and putting them practice in your life, whatever they do. I think that for me is such a massive part of growing as a leader in whatever field you're in. Um, Not being afraid to surround yourself with people who are way better than you, because it will help you grow.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is some more Rockstar Gold.
Come
Yes,
on.
yes, yes. And look, right now we just get speaking of, that's good word, Andrew. And Shelby's now new to the crew. I know that everyone on the media team needs to
Yes.
surround themselves with by just stand by Shelby, and you will learn through
Come
osmosis.
on.
No, no, no. She's got some good stuff, and I love that she's now in leadership with us.
She's the
But and
best.
actually, we're trying to get her on this show, but
Come on.
it was uh, we'll get more into that later. But other than that, no, Andrew, that's some good stuff. And yes, we are all the what's it called? We are all the common denominator, or we are the equivalent of the five people we surround ourselves with the most. So
Mhm.
seek out champions, seek out people that can bring life. And I think it's a funny saying someone once said, or I heard it somewhere, that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So
Mhm.
surround yourself with giants. I
Totally,
don't know.
man.
All right. Okay, I'm going to talk again, and then I'm about to let you go. But have you heard of Ty Lopez? Do you remember that guy? He's the
I
guy who
don't
used
think
to do
so.
videos like next to Lamborghini in his garage with like books in his shelf or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But he did a TED talk, and he talked about the 33%. He said, you need 33% of people that you hang out with. First of all, you hang out with 33% of the people you hang out with are people that you look up to, or 5 to 10 years where you want to be. And then 33% are at your level, peers that you can sharpen iron with, iron sharpen iron, and grow with. And then 33% are people that you can pour into, so you have an outlet to
Mhm.
to release what you. And so it's that flow of give and take. And the other 1%, well, that's your meditation time or whatever. But
Yeah,
that was powerful about having that
that's
level of
good, man.
ahead of you, with you, that can challenge you and keep and hold you accountable, and then also those that you can pour into, because
Absolutely, man.
that's the circle right there, my man. All right, last question, Andrew. Um, as I highlight Eclipse Lawn Care, dude, I remember the reggae jams we used to play. Fun times. That was my old bass player from a long time ago.
Come
That's a
on.
start. Another story for another time, my man. Andrew. The last question: if you want to be found, Andrew, how can people find you? Just show up to the church.
Yeah, show up to the church. There you go. I'm always there. Um, yeah, man, I'm always at church. We have two locations now, though, so you never know which one I'm going to be at.
That is true.
Um, I met this guy last night, and he had been to church a couple times, and I was like, come say hey to me at church. I'm always there. Then I was like, well, actually, it depends on where you're at, I guess. I'm always at church. We just have two locations. Um, so yeah, at church, and then I'm on Instagram, Andrew double underscore Holt.
That's what it
Don't
was.
not Andrew one underscore Holt.
It's just
I
some
tagged the
other
wrong
little
one.
guy.
Yeah, I really need to figure out a new handle probably. That's honestly social media wise, that's pretty much all I'm on is Instagram. So I have a Facebook, but there's no point going on there. I just get on there to say hi to my grandma.
Well, I use it for groups. Like I
There
do a
you
lot of
go.
networking on groups for my sales and other stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just a good place for that. But yeah, I tell everyone else, Instagram is the best way to get. Actually, Instagram's sometimes even better than my phone because I can send messages and video, just a quick message,
There you go.
voice message, and boom. But other than that, Andrew Holt, again, thank you for being my guest today. Thank you for coming on Hey Rockstar and for sharing your story and just some gold that you brought to the house. I'm looking forward to see what's coming up for you. I'm looking forward to what's coming up in other plans and projects. I didn't want to get into any of that stuff because if people want to know more about the projects, they could just tune into the belonging. We'll find out what's going on.
Totally.
But I do know, just a quick plug. If you have not checked out the Belonging Co.'s latest worship album, it's called Shine, right?
See the light.
Oh, See the Light.
Yeah.
Shine. Let them
It's
wonder
kind of
what
like
you
that.
got. Wrong one.
Yeah.
See the Light.
There you go.
Powerful songs in that one. Just you can. I like to listen to it on Spotify, but if you guys get a chance, wherever you can download your music, check it out. You will be blessed and share it with everyone you know and love. It's just again. I love again what Pastor Henry has said from the very first album. When he said that the reason it took so long is because they wanted to capture what God was doing, so that people at home can experience it. And that's kind of the attitude I took with media. Capture what God's
Yeah.
doing. Go. So
It's
I'm
good,
just
man.
following my pastor's vision. But Andrew,
So good.
once again, thank you for being here. I'm about to just close the show, so I'm not gonna send you out anything. But don't go away real quick. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out episode 39 of Hey Rockstar, and it was an interview with a rock star featuring Andrew Holt, worship pastor of the Belonging Co. in Nashville, Tennessee. Hey Rockstar is part of the low budget production affiliation. It's just a place for podcasts. If you love podcasts, check them out. They got stuff that will inspire you, encourage you, entertain you. And if you are a podcaster and you're looking on or just trying to figure out how to start to tell your story, reach out to us. We'd love to take your hand and help you because we didn't know, and now we're pros. Well, we try to be. But other than that, just thank you for checking us out one more time. All the way from Nashville, Tennessee, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for letting us into your homes. Thank you for letting us into your cars. And just thank you for letting us into your hearts. So until next time, I am Josafat Emiliano. Andrew Holt and Miguel, if you guys can see him, has been creeping up behind me. And we just want to say until next time, much love and many blessings.